Who knows what Jay-Z, J.K. Rowling, Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey all have in common? Okay, I will tell you then. They have all overcome failure in one shape or form to go on to gain success in their respective careers. Welcome to My Perfect Failure. Join us as we delve into the world of our perfect failures. We will interview, explore, and discuss how our perfect failures can lead us to success. Join us and tune in.
Welcome everybody to another episode of My Perfect Failure. Today, I'm super excited because I have another amazing guest for you. So my guest today is the founder of Trade University and has over a decade of stock and options trading experience. He's also a podcast host and YouTuber. He's got an amazing YouTube channel. It's pretty much an encyclopedia of trading, millionaire mindset, and everything in that realm. So definitely I'll leave links to that on the show notes. He believes anyone can profit from the stock market, even if they've lost money previously. They just need to identify the best time to buy and sell and the correct options, statistics that can supercharge returns and minimize risk. He helps people go from nervous beginners to confident stock and option traders. So a very, very, very warm welcome to My Perfect Failure, Jason Brown. How are you doing, Jason?
Oh man, I'm superb. Closed out a winning trade today as we do
Yes,
this podcast, so that always feels good,
fantastic.
and I'm excited to be here.
Oh, wow. I'm excited to have you on the podcast. I know that we connected via one of your team, and when I got to kind of delve into your world, look at all the amazing things you're doing. I mentioned the YouTube channel, the podcast. You've got the Trade University. So you've got so much rich content out there already. So I'm excited to kind of delve into that and unearth how myself and everybody else listening, how we can develop a millionaire mindset, because I think we need that today, definitely in today's challenging time. So just for everybody listening, the title of this particular episode is What Motivated You to Become a Millionaire, and the three principles you've applied. Potentially there might be more than three principles, but I'm definitely keen to understand what principles we all can apply to help us elevate ourselves. But if I could start with you, sort of where it all began, your journey to developing. You look like a young guy, so to get to the point where you've got this millionaire mindset, you've had success, you financially you're good, you're wealthy, but you want to educate us. So I'm keen to understand what led you to having this type of mindset. Where did it start?
Yeah, so Paul, once again, thanks for having me on, and I'm so happy that we're talking about millionaire mindset, because a lot of times people want like the strategies, the tactics, what stock should I buy? And they don't realize that it's not until you get like the mindset right first that you'll even be ready for the strategies and be in a mental space to even take action. And so for me, my journey started really back as a little kid. I get to sit here today as a millionaire, but that wasn't always the case. We grew up poor in Detroit, Michigan. My mother, single parent. My dad passed when I was 2 from a car accident. And we were poor, but we didn't know we were poor. We didn't know we were poor until we started to interact with the outside world. And so, for example, I went over to my friend's house one time, like rode my bike over there. I was going to spend the night. And I was like, wow, you have a bed. And he was like, of course I got a bed. Kind of looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, well, we sleep on the floor in sleeping bags. So I thought beds was just for grown-ups. And so that was kind of like my first experience of realizing like there was a financial difference, in this world between, his household and mine. And so as we grew up poor, I just was like, gangs, drugs in the neighborhood, different things like that. Like we had love, we had food, shelter. My mom kept us, me and my brother, in church, but we didn't have any money. And so I always heard about like the stock market, and you're watching Beverly Hills 90210 and like
Yeah.
the rich white kids. They're like, oh, he's a stock market kid. And you're always like, what is this stock market? So when I was 18, graduating from high school in my neighborhood was a big deal because a lot of people either got into drugs, gangs, got killed, got locked up. And so when you graduate, it was like a big deal. Like he got the graduation. And so we had a graduation party, and I got about $2,000 in like gifts, like at my open house. And so I used to always hear things like, well, if you'd invested $2,000, when you were 18 and came back 20 years later, you'd be a millionaire. So I was like, well, why don't everybody do that? So I took $2,000 and I went to a well-known bank and I said, yeah, I want to invest. And the girl was like, so what's your goal? I'm like, to be rich. Why else do people do this? And so she said, you want aggressive funds then, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm 18. I want aggressive growth. So I want aggressive funds. And so I gave her my $2,000. I come back 2 years later. I'm 20 years old. And I'm like, how's my investments doing? And it was down to $700.
It's
And so
down.
I'm like, yes, down to $700. So they lost $1,300 of my money. And that was like my first lesson in life, because I said to the lady, I said, what happened? I thought you come to the professionals because they don't lose money.
Mm.
And she just kind of like, yeah, sometimes the market goes up, goes down. We'll have no control over that. And I looked at her and I said, I could have lost my own money. And so I said, give me the rest of my $700. I'm going to do this myself. And so I took the $700. I spent $200 on some gym shoes or something like that. I had $500 left. And I'm working for Sprint PCS, making $8 an hour selling cell phones. And on a Saturday, that's $64. And to take taxes out, I take home $50. And so I was like, man, if I could just make $50 from the stock market once a week, then I wouldn't have to work Saturdays. And so I did what most people do. I bought the stock in the company that I work for, Sprint PCS. It was $5 a share. I had $500. I'm like, great, I can get 100 shares. All I needed to move is 50 cents to 550. Well, as soon as I bought the stock, it fell down to $4. So I was like, oh man, this doesn't work. And maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. And then the stock went back up to $5. I'm like, okay, I just need to go to 550. Then it fell down to $4 again. And I was like, man, the stock market is a scam, it's rigged. They got my social security number. They know exactly where I bought it at, and they won't let it go to 550. And so it went back up to $5. And this time I was like, I've seen this before. And so I got out at $5 and broke even. It fell back down to $4. And then I got in at $4 and the stock went up to $5 and I made my first $100. And I was like blown away. But I didn't realize if you drew that out on a piece of paper, that would be called like a channeling stock pattern. It was channeling between 5 and 4, 4 and 5, 5 and 4, 4 and 5. And so after I got really good at playing that pattern, I was like, what other patterns out there exist? I started studying other patterns. And I was like, okay, so I got really good at flipping my $500 account. And I was like, if I had $5,000, I can make this much. I was like, if I had $10,000, I'd be rich. And so I was like, how am I going to get $10,000? And so I applied. I had a scholarship to the Mike Hiller School of Business here at Wayne State University, downtown Detroit. And I had a scholarship, academic scholarship. And so I applied for financial aid because I knew they would double pay the account and I would get the refund. And so I took a $10,000 student loan and I grew it to $113,000 as a 21-year-old college student.
That's
and
incredible.
So, yeah. And so if I look at that phase of my life, it's like I start realizing that I was a millionaire in the making, because one of the things that, and there's more to the story after I made that, but I just want to bring home some points to your original question. How did it all start? I didn't realize I was on a journey to become a millionaire back then, but the first thing that I think people need, and I didn't realize I'd had it, was belief in ourselves. When I went to that bank, I didn't believe I could manage my own money. I thought somebody else knew better than me. I thought they knew what I was supposed to do with my money. So let me give it to them. They're smart. They went to school for this. And luckily they lost $1,300 because it made me say, you know what? I'm going to believe in me. I'm going to take the rest and do this myself. And so I think people need belief as the first step of, starting their millionaire journey. Just believing that you can even get there. Because if you don't believe, you won't take the steps or do the things it takes to start inching towards that goal. If you don't believe you're going to get there, if you believe you're wasting your time, this will never happen for you, then you'll do things that result in a waste of time. You won't even take the steps to become a millionaire. So that's the first thing I noticed when I look back on my path. And the second thing I noticed was my ability to take calculated risk. I said, with the first $500, I'm like, if I lose $500, I mean, I'm sure I'll make $500 again in my life. That's not going to be the end of my story. And so just the ability to calculate risk and say, can I grow this into something bigger than 500? And then even when I borrowed the $10,000 student loan, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was taking a calculated risk. In my mind, I said, okay, if I lose this money, I'll be like everybody else. I got 4 years before I even graduate, before they start charging me interest. So I was like, I won't get charged interest for 4 years. I got 4 years to start paying it back before I even have to start paying it back. And then I'm like, will I ever make $10,000 in my life? Yes. And the monthly payments will be so small, I'll just pay it off over time like everybody else. But if I'm right about the stock market and I can grow this $10,000, then I'm rich. And so the ability to be able to take a calculated risk is part of not just becoming a millionaire, but becoming successful in anything, because there's always risk. You can never completely remove it. The question is, can you take a calculated risk and take a calculated chance that has a high probability of paying off? And that's what I was learning at a young age that still serves me now to this day.
Can I, so amazing story, by the way, phenomenal. I've got loads of questions that are sort of pinging off in my brain. I guess the first one, which is at the forefront, is calculated risk and taking calculated risk. Where did that come from? Does it come from instinct? Does it come from gut? Does it come from doing the research, or is it a combination of a number of different things?
For me, and I think a lot of people could probably relate. For me, it came from just analyzing. I shouldn't even say analyze. I hated my life from a standpoint of how
Okay.
broke we were, how poor we were. We had bars on the window, people selling drugs in the neighborhood, people steal the rims off your car overnight, and your car sitting on bricks. So I hated my life. And so for me, the initial analyzing of risk, taking calculated risk was like, it can't get no worse than this. It can only get better. And so I start calculating, if I don't do this, this is my life. I'll get a little job. Maybe I'll work at Ford, GM, or Chrysler, the automotive industry, and I'll kind of be subjected to this lifestyle for a long time. But it's like, if I do something different, I have all this upside
Mm.
of what my life could potentially be like. And so I think that taking calculated risks is just taking inventory of your current life and saying, what's the worst that could happen if this
Yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
work out? And then what's the upside if it does? And you try to limit the downside while you're focusing on the great things that could happen to the upside.
Okay. I love the response to that, because I think everybody can apply that to wherever we are in our lives at the moment. We can apply, what is the upside to taking this risk, and also we can minimize the risk by what it might look like, or there might be little things that we can do just to minimize what a sort of a downside
Absolutely.
might be.
Absolutely. Because once you know what the worst is that can happen, now you say, how do I avoid that situation? What can I do to make sure I don't end up in the quote unquote worst case scenario, which my worst case ended up happening to me. And we can get into that when you're ready. But I even learned from that as well.
Okay, so I want to hold you that in 1 second. But what I wanted to ask you quickly was around. So I'm super in awe of what you did at such a young age, and I'm thinking of myself at a young age where I was very, I guess I got my peers around me, my friends, who are kind of get you to party, get to do certain things, and maybe not have the discipline that you clearly had as a young guy at that college university. What enabled you to maybe have that discipline? Because were all your friends and family doing this, having that same financial intelligence that you were exhibiting? So how did you retain your discipline?
There's a saying that goes like, um, until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, then you won't change.
Okay.
And so for me, the pain of staying in that neighborhood, staying around the drugs, the gangs, the people stealing cars, uh, it, that was more painful than focusing. That was more painful than learning the stock market. That was more painful than being disciplined. And so I hated that life so much that like I was willing to do whatever I needed to
Mm.
do to get out of that situation and stay focused. Now I still partied and different things like that, but like I partied but I always knew where the line was. Like, for example, I was in a gang. And I'll never forget in the hallway at school, we got our report cards. And so I was in the gang and some of the gang members, we were all kind of hanging around and it was like, I was like, what you get on your report card? They're like, I got 3F, 2Ds, and 1C. Another gang member, like, I got 4Fs, 2Ds, and the incomplete. I didn't even go to that class. They couldn't even give me a grade. Ha 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 ha. And it was like, Jay, what you get? And I was like, you don't want to see my report card because it was horrible. Well, I had like 3As, 2Bs, 1C. And so like I was like, no, I'm getting up out of here someday. Like I'm not messing with y'all. Like I want to leave this place. And I knew at that time education was my ticket out because I knew my mom didn't have money for me to go to college. So I was like, I have to get a scholarship or I don't know how I'm going to pay for college because my brother who was going to college before me, we already took out student loans for him. And I was like, I don't even know if they'll give you student loans twice for 2 kids. So I knew my mom didn't have money for me to go. So that's my just example of like, I partied, I was in the gang, but I still knew where the line was at. Like, I don't want to do this forever. So I still had that focus, even if people couldn't see it outwardly, I was focused on the inside.
So there's a lot of lessons that we all can learn from everything you just said in terms of just thinking beyond what our peers are doing, because I think that's very common, not just for youngsters, but even for people that are older, where we've got into a rut and we doing anything that might even apply in a lot of what you're doing. I know that you support not just youngsters, but people that can be older, about how they can find wealth and how they can think with a more of a financially astute mindset. What I wanted to do also was to tag back a little bit about belief, because I think belief comes for a lot of it's just a word without real action or application. And I think the way that you described it earlier, I think it really hits home how important it is. And for people listening that might just use belief, but they use it just as a buzzword without actually applying it. Do you have any words of advice for people that maybe need to kind of go from just using it as a word to actually action and actually doing and actually implementing it into whatever they are passionate about?
Yeah. So belief is for me is like realizing that I don't know, maybe I have an advantage because I'm black. And the reason I say that, and I want to explain why I said that. The reason I feel like we have an advantage because being a black man is every time I think about something that is hard to do or something that seems unobtainable, I think like our ancestors went through way worse than this. It's like
Yeah.
if you're like, well, I don't know if I can learn the stock market, I'm not smart enough. I'm like, these people had to learn how to survive in the era where they were getting hung from
Mm,
trees, getting beat, burned, set on fire in the middle of the street, getting hosed down with a water hose. Like, if they could survive that, I could read a book. If they could survive that, I can learn how to
yeah.
calculate a break even on a stock. And so, for me, that belief, I always think like this isn't hard. What they went through is hard. What you going through is a piece of cake if that's what you want to
Mm,
do. So that's number one is like, is really understanding like the privileged position that we are in from, there's computers, there's YouTube, there is an unlimited amount of information out here that supports the belief that you could do anything, as well as you don't have to have a lot of money and go back to school. You could learn how to do the stuff just all online. And so I think wrapping your mind around that is the first action step to saying,
mm,
like, what's really considered hard? And is whatever I'm going through hard? Is this hard to believe that I can be
yeah.
this? I bet our ancestors felt it hard to believe that one day we'd be free. They felt it hard to believe one day they could own property and they wouldn't be the property.
Mm,
So I think I approach it with that mindset. I think if everybody approached it with that mindset, they realize, like, okay, now let's look at people who've accomplished stuff that are successful. It's like, okay, are they human? Yes. Do they breathe air? Yes. Do they bleed blood? Yes. And so when you think about it logically, at least for me, I started to say, they're not special. They just know something that I don't know. And if I can learn what they know and get the experience, I can get a similar result. Now, I say similar result, not the exact result, because some stuff happened during a certain time frame. Like I don't believe I can build the biggest banking system because I was not around to be a JP
Yeah.
Morgan or a Chase when they were funding, you know, oil companies and America being built. So some stuff is in time, but if I can learn how to be a good banker, what would stop me from starting my own hedge fund? So I could have my version of success in this current day. And so you realize they just have knowledge that you don't have. And if you can get that knowledge, then you can be whatever you want. So outside of sports or something where it's like a physical ability, it's like I just can't run that fast, I can't jump that high. Outside of that, most things that people accomplish, they're not special. They just have information or they had an opportunity that you didn't have. And so it's like, okay, if I can get access to that information and that opportunity, I can create my version of results, which then makes me believe. And now I can work it back down to an actionable plan. How do I get the knowledge? Can I hire that person as a mentor? Can I go work at that company as an intern and learn how they built it? You can start to craft a plan once you A, believe, and then B, understand that they're just a human and they had opportunity and information that you didn't have.
Okay. No, love it. Love it. And I love that mindset shift and that mindset resilience that a lot of us don't apply because we don't think about it. We come up against a roadblock, a mental roadblock or a knowledge roadblock, and we sort of down tools and we don't move beyond that. So I think everything that you just said really has given us the equipment mentally to really move beyond where we are, particularly if we're looking to achieve something that we dream of, that maybe we think is a little bit of a challenge. That the tools that you provided really help us achieve those aims. I wanted to ask a question around resilience. How important has resilience and maybe determination been in your journey to achieve what you've achieved to date? Because I'm sure there must have been some obstacles along the way, things that maybe didn't go according to plan. And maybe that fits into the story that you mentioned at the start.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into it. And so resilience is the backbone of why I'm standing here today. And the reason I say that, you got to think back when I took that $500 and I bought the stock and it fell to four. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this doesn't work. And then it went back up to five. And then I lost. And then it went back down to four and I got in and got out at five. Like I had to be resilient. They lost $1,300 of my money first. And I
Crazy.
said, I'm still going to figure out how to do this on my own. I go to do it on my own, and then it falls from five to four and starts playing games with me. Right. So I was resilient from the beginning of like, I'm just not going to give up and go figure out how this works. Now, the second half of my story that you don't know is I dropped out of school after I made $100,000 because I'm like, well, why would I go to school? I'm making more money without a degree and without working a job. And I'm full time trading for the next 2 years. Year three, I run my account up to about 300,000. I'm living off a little bit of it, so it's down about 250, $250,000. I had this idea. I'm going to buy a condo downtown Royal Oak, Michigan, cash. It's a $500,000 condo. So I risk $250,000 trying to make $500,000, and at the age of 23, going into 24, I lose it
You're
all.
joking.
So
You're
I lose
joking.
I lose $250,000 by the time I'm 24 years old. And so now I'm like,
Wow.
oh crap, what am I going to do? Like, I lost all my money. I hadn't worked in like 2.5, 3 years. I had to move back home with my mother, back to the place with bars on the window, drugs in the neighborhood, people stealing our cars. And after tasting success and then losing it and having to come back, that was super painful. And so when you talk about resilience, I started thinking, I'm listening to books, audio books, I'm doing personal development and stuff all throughout these years. And so one of the things that they said was like, what would your hero do? And like my hero at that time, with respect to the stock market, was Warren Buffett. And so
Mm.
I'm like, well, if Warren Buffett quits, he never becomes a billionaire. He never becomes Warren Buffett. And so I'm like, if I quit, I never become Jason Brown.
Yeah.
I never get to do a podcast like this.
Mm.
I never get to tell my story. And so I just had the craziest idea, at least, to other people it'd be crazy. To me, I thought, yeah, it just makes sense. I was like, I can't be the only one that's ever lost money before. So I said, I'm going to record myself making the money back. That's actually how I started my YouTube channel. I just
Really?
recorded myself making the money back. And so I was like, I'm going to document the journey. I was like, anybody can make money. I was like, well, how many people can lose it and come back from it? And so I was like, I'm going to document the journey of making the money back. And when I started recording myself from roughly the time that I lost it and made it back, It was about a 5 year stretch, and I became a millionaire within those 5 years. And so that's how I started my YouTube
Crazy.
channel. And then people would ask me like, "Can you teach me? And how did you pick that
Mm.
stock? And why did you pick that one?" And so that's when I was like, I wonder if people would pay me for this information. And I started my course in my university to teach people. But that all came from losing my entire account and then documenting myself making it back.
So that really encapsulates the title of this episode, My Perfect Failure, because to go from to lose a quarter of $1 million, and particularly at a young age, at any age actually, but particularly at a young age, how do we cope with that mentally? Because I'm sure them again, there must have been, I'm making an assumption here, but were there when you went off into your world and you were trading stocks and options and you were obviously became very good at it, did you have maybe family and friends that were like, "What are you doing? Are you sure you know what you're doing? Why don't you just have a regular job?" Was there any of that going on?
Oh, a ton of that, a ton of that. I mean, my mother, she recently passed away, God rest her soul. But, this is not a story I tell a lot, but when I made my first $100,000 at 21, and I told my mom, and the first thing she said was, I remember this like it was yesterday. She's like, "You're not gonna quit your job, are you?" And I'm like, Mom, I make $8 an hour. Like, she didn't say,
Mm,
"How'd you do it? Keep going,
yeah,
teach me, good job." She said, "You're not gonna quit your job, are you?" And so like that was like a blow because I'm like, where's the support? Like I proved I can make 100 grand at 21 years old. But my mom's from the South, she's from Mississippi. They grew up doing slavery, doing cotton picking. So like the stuff I was starting to do, that was foreign to them. They didn't think the stock market were for people like us. But yeah, so to her it was like, yeah, just don't quit your job because you got good benefits. I'm like, Mom, I just made 100 grand not
yeah,
working.
yeah,
So there was a little bit of that. As I was trying to build my first account, me and my cousin, we were investing together, and we went to our family members and asked everybody for like $1,000. We tried to get 10 people to give us 1,000 to start that $10,000 account, and everybody was like, no. And that's how I had to turn to the student loan.
yeah,
After we made 100 grand, then everyone's like, "What can you do for me? If I give you
yeah,
some money, can you invest it?" Right. So we totally went through our share of, friends, family not believing in us. And then when we made money, for my mom, she still was like, "Don't quit your job because that might not
yeah,
last." And to this day, now people are, like, I knew if anyone was going to make it, it was you. But
yeah.
that wasn't the story when we were on our grind trying to get to where
Yeah,
we're at today.
yeah. I think particularly for parents, I guess there's a generational thing where they think differently. They think about a job for life, benefit really how they think, and I think for friends and some family, it's like they never want to be the first person that takes the risk that actually goes for it. And I think we can be very not condescending is the wrong word, but not really supportive because I think Will Smith said this one time around sometimes we shouldn't take advice from other people because they don't think they can do it. So when they say that you can't do it, it's because they don't think they can do it.
Right.
So
Limited.
sometimes
They're
it's
they're they're putting their limits and
yeah,
beliefs
that's right. That's a
onto
better way of
you.
putting it. Yeah, yeah, 100%. What I and yeah, so this came to mind as well. So when you told about your story of losing that 250 grand, I thought about Ray Dalio because I'm not sure if it was his current company, but when he was starting out, reasonably young, he lost a whole bunch of money and it was other people's money again. And he had to go through the same process as you is to rebuild, 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 rebuild. So it's the same type of mindset that we all can utilize to go from the really difficult moments and actually move forward. So we all, if anybody's listening, and you're in a difficult moment, these stories support the fact that we can evolve and we can become even greater.
I mean, when you think about the people who are great, the people who are great are not the ones who tried and quit,
Mm,
right? Like name any great person. You're like, there's two people that never end up in the books of greatness. The one that says, "I tried it and everything worked, and I just went right to the top." Like that is not the
yeah,
person you like.
yeah,
You're right. The great stories are like, I tried it, I failed, I got beat up, things looked dark, but I kept going. Like those are the people that you're like, wow, that's one of the greats. They've been to the championship 6 times and lost. They
Yeah.
finally won one. Like those are the greats, right? It's not the people who just did it once and went to the top. And it's also not the people who I tried it once and I'll never try that again because I got hurt. It hurt my feelings. I lost a couple dollars. I said I'll never invest again.
Yeah.
Like those are not the people you relate to that did it once and never tried it again. It is the Ray Dalios. It's the Warren Buffetts. It's the, um, I know people don't like former President Trump, but from a business standpoint, he went through bankruptcy. He filed bankruptcy and then came back out a billionaire. Whether you like him as a person or president or not, I'm just talking about the business side of them. It's the people who have tried, failed, and got back up that you end up saying like, wow, those are the inspirational stories. Those are the people that end up being great. The Mike Tysons of the world, the Kobe Bryants,
Yeah. And I think you alluded to it earlier. It's almost our job is to become our own hero. We're in our own movie. So my favorite movies are those ones where you're up against the odds, just had really, really bad luck. You're a good guy, but you get up, you go again, you get up, you go again, you get up, you go again. And it's like, I think a lot of the time we don't think of ourselves in our own movie. Maybe we think that our story is written. As soon as we have a piece of bad luck, we think actually that's the end, but it's not the end. The end is when you get up and you get up, you get up and you get up and you just do different things. We don't do the same things that have got us to this point because there's information there that we have now where we can, like when the 250 grand, there was a lot of information there and you utilized that and you turned it into millions.
Yeah. And I think we all have the ability, if you look at our life as a movie or a book, if it's a book, it's like this is one page or one chapter.
Yeah.
As long as you're breathing and alive, you have the ability to write a new chapter as long as you don't quit. If it's a movie, it's like this is part one, wait till the sequel comes out. You know what I'm saying? You got the ability to go film part 2 and part 3 of the movie and create a trilogy in which you come out victorious in the end. And so it's up to us do we end the movie right here? Do we end the book right here? Or do we turn the page and write another chapter? Do we pick up the camera and record a new ending to that movie? And that's what I chose to do. I chose to document a new ending to my movie. It wasn't going to end with, I lost all my money. I went back home. I'm never trading and investing again. I was like, nope. We go make a hell of a book or story out of this if I come out of this.
And what's really great about this is what you're doing with the trade university and your podcast. You're helping other people continue their own movie, and they also can have a different ending, far different ending to the ending potentially they might have had prior to starting the university, doing a webinar, doing all these other different initiatives that you're doing.
Yeah, that's, Power Trades University is the thing that I wish I had. Like when I was coming through the ranks, I wish I had somebody to talk to. I wish I had other stock traders to see how they were trading, how they were interpreting the market, because it can be a lonely game.
Yeah.
And so I wish I had places to go to talk to people, chat with people. And so since I didn't have that, I was like, I'm going to build what I wish I had, a community of people that are traders that are not just trading random stuff that they found on the internet. Everybody's educated and trading a similar style or fashion. Because I documented myself making the money back, I just continue to document how I look for trades. So like even to this day, all I really do is just show how I look for trades. I mean, I have courses to teach you to understand the language and the chart pattern, what I'm talking about. But in the university, you're watching me do what I've been doing for over 20 years, which is look for trades for my real account and show you the process of how I'm thinking, why I bought, why I won't buy here. And that's what I created, what I wish I had had.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So they're getting technique, plus they're getting maybe the mindset that you're in when you're actually doing these trades as well. So they're getting the full package.
Absolutely. They're getting real time what I'm thinking about the market or a specific stock and how I'm managing my own, real account, real time.
Okay, so that's great. So I'm gonna tag on to that. So I presumably any trader, or not all trades can be amazing. So when maybe one doesn't go according to plan, do you show actually what happened there and what you can do to remedy that?
Absolutely. If you look at my YouTube channel, even I got videos that say I lost $40,000. Here's what happened next,
Mm,
or I'm down 20 grand. Here's how I plan to make it back. So like, I don't think it's fair to only show you win all the
mm,
time, because that's not reality. The goal of trading in the stock market is to be right more
mm.
times than you're wrong, and to be right big and keep your losses small.
Yeah.
If you can do that, so if you take 10 trades, if you can be right 7 out of 10 times, you're doing well.
Mm,
Even if you're wrong 7 times, but you're right 3 times, if those 7 times you're wrong, you lose $100. But the times you're right, 3 times you're right, you make 1,000 each.
yeah.
Then you're net profitable. And people got to understand that's the game we're playing. A lot of times, people come into this industry and they just want to be right, right, right every
Yeah.
trade and hit a home run, and that's not reality. It's kind of like dating.
Yeah.
It's like every girl or guy you meet is not going to be your husband, but you'll have a good boyfriend in
Mm,
middle school, girlfriend in middle school, high school, and maybe the one in college is the one you get married
mm,
to. But the point is, there's going to be some duds in there too that break your heart. But your goal is to not get crushed and jump off, commit suicide because of one bad heartbreak. Same thing with the stock market. It's like you don't want to commit suicide in your investment account and blow it up
mm.
trying to make a ton of money off one trade. And you also don't want to give up because you had one bad
Yeah.
trade or one bad investment. And so you want to be profitable over the long term, and compounding interest will work in your favor.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I guess it equates to any industry. So whether you're a film director like Tarantino or Spielberg, not all their films back out as box office success or even critically acclaimed successes. They will have some real amazing successes, but then they will have some that maybe we don't even know about them because they just
Exactly.
haven't done that well. They've not got the financial acclaim or the critical acclaim. So it's the same process.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like many people have tried many things before they became the overnight success
Mm.
that you see them as
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And so there's many failures in between there. I
Mm.
think one of my favorite commercials that kind of, you know, encapsulate this, and I don't know if you've seen this commercial before, if your viewers have seen it, but I would encourage people to Google it. It's the Michael Jordan commercials called "I Win Because I Fail," and
Yeah.
so they have Michael Jordan out there, and they show his highlight reel, and he says, um, "I've missed 3,654 shots. I took the game-winning shots 200 times, and I've missed 190 of them." Like he talks about all his failures, and then
Yeah.
at the end he says, "I succeed because I fail." And it's like nobody talks
Mm.
about how many shots he
Mm.
missed, how many times he didn't get the game winner. They only know him as the great who won 6 NBA championships. But to get to that point, he missed a lot of shots. There's a lot of games he didn't win. There's a lot of other championships
Yeah.
he didn't win.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite business founders is Vinod Khosla, who is the founder of one of the founders of Sun Microsystems, and he says that I'm successful because of my willingness to fail. So, like you, he does this calculated risk thing. He will obviously he's always looking to be successful, but he knows in order to become successful, there's going to be some pain, there's going to be some losses, but I'm prepared to do that. He's prepared to go down that road.
Yeah, and success has a sense of humor that you may not think is funny, right? So success says like, "Oh, you really want it? You want it that bad? I'm gonna make you get sick. You really want it that bad? I'm gonna cause a death
Yeah,
in your
yeah,
family. You want it? You really want
yeah,
it bad? Oh, I'm gonna have you get laid off from your job, right?" And so success
yeah,
is like, I'm gonna throw these curveballs at you to see how bad do you really want it. Did you
yeah,
did the sickness knock you out? Did getting laid off from your job? Oh, you want to be a millionaire from the stock market? I'm gonna make you lose $250,000. And like I think success finally said, like, okay, he won't stop. He truly wants it. Let him have it,
yeah,
right? And so that's what life is about. And I don't think people sometimes think like somebody has a spotlight on them, but the reality is that's just life.
Yeah.
Life, people get sick, you get laid off, you lose money, you doubt yourself sometimes, you get tired along the way, but that's just life. Nobody has like their foot on your neck. It's more about how you respond to life because life happens to all of us. The only difference is how we respond to it.
Mhm.
Somebody else lost $250,000, but they quit and you never heard about them. They're not on your
Yeah.
podcast,
Yeah.
right? They
Yeah.
quit, they gave up, they swore they'll never trade or invest again. And so
They
it's
might be
just,
listening to this now,
they
not be
might be
or
listening to
watching
it.
this now.
It's just about how we both responded to it.
Yeah.
I responded with, I'm going to record myself making the money back,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. As you're talking, what's in my head was that Tyson Fury fight between Deontay Wilder, where he gets knocked down. Did you see that one?
No.
So he gets knocked down and he's literally out for the count. But he gets up on maybe nine, count of nine or eight, something like that. And but he's like literally on the canvas like that, spread eagle. So that immediately came into my head as you were talking. What I wanted to ask you, I'm mindful of your time. So we talked about at the start, at the top of the show, I talked about principles. Potentially, we've covered some of those in this discussion so far, maybe all of them. But for people that are really loving this discussion and what you do, and they're really motivated to understand how they can really shift their current circumstances to develop the millionaire mindset and ultimately become a millionaire. Are there principles or certain things that they should be doing or they can do to get in that right frame?
Yeah, I think a couple things, we talked about belief. They have to
Yeah.
first believe that they can do it. Now, belief alone isn't going to get you there. The second thing from a mindset and a tactical standpoint is they have to make a decision. I made a decision that I was going to be a millionaire, and I also made a decision that I wanted to do it from the stock market, which leads me
Mm,
to the second principle is you have to pick the right vehicle.
yeah.
And so you could say like, I want to be a millionaire, and then you're like, but I'm going to do it by collecting pennies. I mean, maybe you'll get there, but that's probably not the right
Mm,
vehicle to get to becoming a millionaire. It doesn't have to be a millionaire. You could say, I want to play in the NBA. Okay, but you didn't go and play soccer. It's like you're in the
yeah.
wrong vehicle. Like you need to get in the vehicle that
Yeah.
plays basketball. You might need to go back to school, join the college league. But you need to play for a church league. But like get in the right vehicle where you can get found and someone could scout or recruit you. And so picking the right vehicle is super important. And then the third principle is have the right time frame. So many of us say, I either want to be a millionaire, but if I don't do it by this year, then it
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's like that, if all of us could just turn around and become a millionaire in a year, we'd all do it. But a lot of times becoming a millionaire, it may be a 3-year journey, a 5-year journey. How about a 10-year journey?
Yeah.
Whatever the time frame is, let's be realistic. And the reason I say give it at least 5 years is because we give 5 years to college just to come out making $50,000 to $100,000. So I'll commit to college, I'll go in debt,
Mm,
I'll study for 5 years, 4 to 5 years, and maybe I'll get a job making 50 to 100,000. But when it comes over to becoming a millionaire, we're like, I'll give it 6 months, 12 months tops. If I
yeah.
don't hit it by next year, this doesn't work. It's like, okay, so you could go to school to get a degree and maybe make 50 to 100,000. You'll commit to that. But when it comes to a millionaire, it got to get done in 6 months to a year. So we must have a realistic time frame. And I think the third thing from a mindset standpoint or a principle standpoint is I like to say right information, right people, right information. And so we got to get around the right people and we got to get the right
Yeah.
information.
Mm,
If you hang around your broke friend, they're going to give you the wrong
mm,
information. They never made $1 million. They don't know how to tell you how to make a million. And in every opportunity you get, they go say it's a scam. They go say, this doesn't work for people like us. And so it's like, I'm around the wrong person and I'm getting the wrong information. And then you could get around the right people and they still can give you the wrong information. So you ever been around, and this is what bugs me sometimes about rich people. You ever get around someone rich and you're like, how'd you do it? And they like, just keep going, keep on keeping on. Just follow your dreams. And it's like, nah, can I get the real information? Like, you know, how did you really do it? Right. And sometimes they just give you the fluff, like just keep on keeping on. It's like, I need to be around the right people who give you the right information. And the right people will say, look, this is how I got that internship. This is how I got, I shot 300 baskets every night practicing my free throws. Like, you got to get around the right people and also get around the right information. You can't just be all mindset and just keep on
Yeah,
believing and you'll
yeah,
get there. It's like, I'm all for positive thinking, but give me something tactical.
yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you, I think you've already answered the question. I was going to ask you about how do we plan it, but I think you've encompassed a lot of what that looks like in what you've just said about, because sometimes we can have aspirations to do certain things and we don't really have the plan. And I think we can have the plan, but also I think part of that really is thinking about speaking to the right people in that industry. So as an example, for stocks and options and trade, we need to be speaking to Jason. We don't want to be speaking to me as an example. I might have watched a few YouTube videos over the years, but can I give you the real juice in terms of how you're going to really execute and actually take it to the next level and become a millionaire? It's not my area of expertise. You need to be speaking to the right people.
I couldn't have said it better because we go home and ask our broke friend, like,
Mm,
how do we get to 1 million? It's like, well, if they knew, they'd be there, right? So you're asking the wrong person. And so you gotta get around the right information and get around the right people. And then you have to believe. Uh, it's so condescending to get around a millionaire and then be skeptical. And I remember someone saying, like, you can't be broke and skeptical at the same time, right? And so, like, you have to be open that
mm,
everybody's not a scam, everybody's not out to get you, and be open as well when you get around the right information and the right people. And when you think about becoming a millionaire specifically, because that's the topic of this, you have to understand becoming a millionaire is nothing more than a formula. If people understood it's just a formula, then you just go hard on that formula. So what do I mean by that? If you say, like, I want to become a millionaire, and I say, great, how do you want to become a millionaire? You say, I want to sell something. You say, great, what do you want to sell? Water. It's like, okay, well then the formula is sell 1 million bottles of water for $1. And you're like, well, if that's not $1 profit. Okay, so then the formula is, how can I sell $1 million of water at $2 a water bottle? And how can I get water bottles for a cost of $1 to me? Once you understand that, your only goal is to find out where can I source water for $1 and how can I get it to people who
yeah,
are willing to pay $2? Do I got to go camp out at Disney World where people drink water from standing in a line all day from being hot? Okay, well, Disney World won't let me on their property to sell water. Can I sell it outside the gate? Can I, do I walk up and down
yeah,
the beach and
yeah,
sell 1 million waters for $2? Like, it's now just a formula. And you're just like, where can I go? Where can I get water for $1? Where can I go find people who are willing to pay $2 for it? That's it. That
mm,
is the formula. And so when you start thinking about it like that, it's not that hard to become a millionaire. It's like in the stock market, it's like, what do I want to do? Do I want to do X amount of trades and make $1,000 per trade? It's just a formula. And once you have the formula, you just start ticking it off. Okay, if I do, if I'm selling 1 bottle a month of water, that's 12 a year. It's like, divide that by 1 million. That tells you how long it's going to take to
mm,
make your $1 million.
yeah,
And the only question that comes after that is, how do I speed it up? How do I
yeah,
go from selling 12 bottles a month to 24 bottles to 36 bottles? Maybe I get some employees that also go out. You start working it backwards now that you know that it's a formula. And
yeah,
then it's not that complicated. It's not that scary.
yeah. I love all that because for anybody listening, watching, you can think about what Jason just said and apply it to anything they've got interest in. And Jay Shetty talks about, which I think you talk about clearly as well, possibilities mindset. So you're not thinking about an obstacles mindset where you just think obstacles. They might be there, but when you've got the obstacle, there's always possibilities there as well. And it's not getting snookered or stopped by the obstacles. It's actually acknowledging them and then you move on to the possibilities, because there's always possibilities, and it's having that agility of mind to kind of move beyond the obstacles that are clearly there. But anything worth doing, there's always going to be obstacles.
Absolutely. And think about it like this too. You made me think of when you said obstacles. Number one is somebody else selling water in the United States or
Mm.
wherever country you're from. Yes. So they have already figured out how to get water for $1 and sell it for
Yeah,
two. So now you're just like, somebody's already figured it out. So we know it's possible. So now I just need to figure out what they know. If they're not willing to tell me or mentor me, I got to do some legwork, some homework, and figure out how they're sourcing water. On the other side, if nobody's figured out how to get water in here, oh my goodness, what opportunity you have. Because if you figure it out, you are the first. You got a patent on how to deliver
yeah.
water for two, you know what I'm saying? So
Mm.
either way, if there's an obstacle, it's like, has someone done this before? Yes, then they figured out how to get around that obstacle. Has no one done this before? You're like, if I figure it out, I'm rich
Yeah.
because I'm the first one. And then I can sell the process to everybody else. So my point is, you're coming from that mindset of I'm gonna win either way.
Mm. Yeah.
Either way,
Yeah.
I'm gonna win. you
Yeah,
know,
100%, 100%. I'm mindful of your time. I think about three questions, if I may.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. Now, when I just think about people that, again, people that are watching, listening, I do think that is important to be hanging. I think we've covered this briefly, but I just want to emphasize it. I think hanging around the right people, whether it's following your YouTube or becoming part of the university, or whether it's reading the right book, or whether it's finding supportive people in your community. I think that's critical as well, because we really need the right energy behind us, because I don't know who said that you change your energy, you change your life. And I think that we can be motivated to develop that millionaire mindset. But if we're around people that don't harness that, I think it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be an uphill challenge.
Yeah, it's life is hard enough as it is on your own, right? And so when you're trying to go after greatness, it definitely helps to be surrounded by
Mm,
some people who either have been there or not necessarily have to have been there, but are on the same journey. Because you
yeah,
got somebody you can talk to when it gets hard. You got somebody you can talk to when it gets tough. And so community is definitely a big part of it. You know, if I have a losing trade, but I can go in there and talk to my members and like, yeah, like how we go recover from this, and feel like somebody understands me and
mm,
understand that this is part of the game. Versus you go
yeah,
talk to your
100%.
spouse and they're like, that's why I don't invest. Or you talk to your best
Mm,
friends like,
yeah,
that's why I don't do that stuff.
yeah,
And you're like, that ain't what I need to hear right now.
yeah.
And so being part of that community, they can share some words with you that can support you in your
Mm,
toughest moments. So it's
yeah.
super important to lock arms with people on the same path or headed in the same direction.
100%. University, what's the best way for people to find out more about that? Obviously, I can put links on the show notes, but what's the best way for people to get involved with that?
So the best way is, so I'm Jason Brown and I have the brownreport.com. So from there, they can get access to all my social media, Instagram, YouTube. We have what's called the stock market starter pack. So people ask like, how can I get started in the stock market? How can I get started trading options and make this work for me? If they don't know anything about the stock market, we have the stock market starter pack, which is a free PDF download, which teaches them how to open their account, when to buy, when to sell, how to read charts. And then we have the stock option starter pack, which talks about calls and put options that introduce them to that. And so both of those can be found at thebrownreport.com. And if the free resources make sense, if my free teachings make sense, then they can also go over to Power Trades University from thebrownreport.com and look at the more paid programs if they want the live coaching, the text alerts, the step-by-step course instructions, different things like that.
Okay, mate. So that's a lot. So you've got free access, or you've got some stuff which is free to download. You've got lots of things to uplift you, educate you, build the foundation, and then they can come onto the university. And you said they get access to live sessions with you as well.
Yeah, everything's just at
Okay,
thebrownreport.com. They can just
okay,
find everything at the Brown Report. The reason I say, if it's someone who's already been trading or investing, they might want to just hop straight into a paid program. They're
yeah,
like, I know I need help. I know I need coaching. I need the community, etc. But then there's some people that's like, I'm still not sure, and we have free resources for them. So
Okay.
we got something from
Yeah.
beginner all the
Okay.
way up to the person
Okay.
that's ready to be a master at this.
Okay. Okay. So you've triggered a thought. So which I've written down, but I haven't asked you, and it's about mentoring and potentially not doing it alone, because I think that sometimes we can all suffer in silence where we're trying to achieve greatness, and I don't know anybody who's ever achieved greatness on their own. So what's your what I don't know, what is your thought around having the right mentors in our camp to help us really achieve a lot of the objectives that we set for ourselves?
So a mentor to me is like the cheat code, having a mentor, having a coach, paying for courses. That's the cheat code. It's just like being at an amusement park and they like, look, you can just walk around and figure out where everything is at, or you can pay this and get a line jump pass. You get a little map and everything like that. And it's like, that's the cheat code. It's like, I want to bypass the confusion. I want to go straight to the front of the
Yeah.
line and I want to get on the ride. Having a mentor, having a coach is the cheat code. It's like, just let me hook up my caboose to yours and tell me what to do and tell me how you did it and give me some insights on if I'm doing it right or wrong so I can correct and stay on the path. That's like the cheat code for life. If most people understood that, they would probably get further in life instead of
Yeah.
saying, well, I can figure it out on my own. Let me do it first and see if I make some mistakes. Then I'll hire a coach. It's like, yeah, or you could hire a coach and avoid losing money, avoid making those
Yeah.
mistakes, and get to millionaire status, get to financial freedom, get out of debt a lot faster. So
Mm.
it's the cheat code. And some people like using the cheat code and some people like going the hard route. I
Yeah.
like the cheat code. Even to this day, I pay for mentors, coaching, masterminds, different things like that.
Yeah, yeah. And it again, probably it is that millionaire mindset. I think the ability to understand that we can achieve a lot more with the right support, whatever that looks like, then we're really going to be able to achieve things a lot quicker and also have fun with it and learn more and not be so alone. I think we can have that scarcity mindset where we think that we can do everything alone and we suffer in silence. And a bunch of us potentially will never make it. We'll give up before we we'll just give up because we don't have the right team with us. So yeah, so thanks for sharing that. So obviously you've been successful. So what motivates you now to kind of like work as hard as you're doing now and I guess to hit more milestones? What's really your motivation today?
Yeah. So when I think about my motivation, I did a podcast about this. I think I called it the 3 levels of motivation. I think I call it.
Okay, I'll try and
And
find it.
and in that podcast, what I talked about is the first level of motivation was like, I hate my life, right? So I was motivated because I hated my circumstances and I wanted to get out of that neighborhood. I wanted to get out of an area that was gangs, drugs, people stealing cars. So I was motivated by hating my life. Once I got out of that situation, the second level of motivation was, do I have what it takes? Like, I just wanted to know if I had what it takes to become a millionaire. It wasn't about the money, because when I was making about $600,000, I was living a good life. Like, people think I gotta make $1 million to live a good life. I'm telling you, my life changed the most when I made about 500 to 600,000.
Okay.
There wasn't much I couldn't buy at that point. I mean, had a nice car, nice house, you name it. So everything above that was just like extra.
Mm,
Um, so my life changed at 5 to 600,000. But I was like, I just want to know, do I have what it takes to make $1 million in one calendar year? Like, not like over the last 10 years. I was like, do I have what it takes to do it in a 12-month taxable time frame on the books? I made 1 million. And so that was my motivation at that point. Once I hit that several years in a row, my motivation now is kind of like of a Kobe Bryant or kind of like of a Michael Jordan or LeBron James. Is now I ask myself, can I compete at the highest levels? can I become the next Warren Buffett? Can I help more people? Can I sell more books? Can I teach more people about financial literacy than Susie Orman or what's the guy named Dave Ramsey? You know, no disrespect to them, they're doing their thing. Now I'm like, can I compete at the highest level? And so that's my motivation now. It's like, can I help more people? Can I compete? Can I get on more podcasts than Dave Ramsey does radio shows? Like, that's the motivation now.
Okay, amazing, inspiring as well. So I think there's two. I think one of you might have already answered. So best place for people to find you. I guess you've got YouTube, social media, it's all there.
TheBrownReport.com. That's the best place because they
Okay.
can get to everything from the main
perfect.
site. So
Okay.
that's TheBrownReport.com.
Okay, perfect. And the last question is, if you could invite 3 inspirational people for dinner, alive or past, who would you invite?
Did you say 3 inspirational people?
Yeah, 3.
Oh, for some reason I thought you said 1, but 3. So I would, if I could invite 3 people to dinner, I would say my dad would be one. He passed when I was 2 years old, and I just be cool to see his mannerism. How does he talk? What was life like back when he was alive from his point of view? So my dad would be one person I would invite to dinner. I would definitely have to say President Obama, just being the first Black president, just coming from Chicago, coming from humble beginnings. Like, what was that like? And I'm going to say LeBron James. I know most people probably thought I would say Warren Buffett, but I would probably say LeBron James because I want to know what it feels like he has lost so many times and, the world doubted him. He finally wins the championship. Then he goes back to Cleveland, wins one where they just didn't believe Cleveland could win one. So, like, what is it like to be doubted by so many people and then to keep going when you're playing on that big of a stage with so many eyes on you? So those would be the 3.
Yeah, great people. So I lied. So somebody texted me a question, if I may ask you this one. So someone I've shared your details with, and he loves what we do. So he said, what's the most important skill needed to become successful at trading? People always talk about analysts, psychology, or discipline. What's your take?
I would probably say the thing you need the most is to learn how to read stock charts. Everything begins and starts with reading a chart and determining the best time to buy or sell. If you get that piece wrong, all the rest never happens, right? If you read the chart wrong and buy when you should be selling or sell when you should be buying, that's going to mess with your mindset. That's going to mess with everything else. And so the number one skill is learning how to read a stock chart. Obviously, once you read the stock chart, you got to believe in yourself. You got to know strategies, calls, puts, everything like that. But you never get to all that if you don't understand what you're looking at on the chart and determine the low risk time to buy and the best time to sell.
Okay, thank you. Jason, thank you. Loved the conversation, learned so much. And thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, Paul, I appreciate you having me on the show, and I really hope your listeners got a lot out of it.
No, I'm sure they will. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of My Perfect Failure. We're always looking to grow the show. So please do share this podcast far and wide, particularly if you know people that want to really dig into their millionaire mindset. Please do share this episode far and wide. And your feedback is most welcome. We're keen to hear about the things you like and equally the things you don't like. So you can find me at paul@myperfectfailure.com, or you can find me via the feedback page on the website. So take care for now. Bye.
Thanks for listening to My Perfect Failure podcast. Be sure to visit www.myperfectfailure.com to join the conversation. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google Play. Look out for our next episode.